The premier game in the SEC this weekend, College Gameday, will be on site as the 2-0 South Carolina Gamecocks take on the 1-1 LSU Tigers at what will inevitably be a packed Williams-Brice Stadium and one of the most electric atmospheres in all of college football. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole Thompson. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between the Gamecocks and Tigers on Saturday afternoon. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use promo code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. Again, guys, that's prizepicks.com. Promo code SECU to get your $50 bonus today. All eyes are on Columbia, South Carolina this weekend as the Gamecocks and Tigers do battle at Williams-Brice Stadium. And this is the SEC Unfiltered Game of the Week. We will be on hand at Willie B to take in all of the action. I am Chris Phillips. He is Cole Thompson. Again, we are previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game. Cole, appreciate you taking the time, man. Really excited to talk this one.
This is a game that I have had circled on the calendar before the year even began. And there's a reason for that. Many people have heard my takes on South Carolina. I, unlike most people on this channel, have been very kind to Gamecock Nation. I called you the ultimate wildcard team of 2024. You tell me something happens, I believe it. Because there's something about the aura and the energy. Year 4, people saying it's a must-win season for Shane Beamer, and he's going to find a way to deliver in the big ones. I had at the start of the year, South Carolina pulling off the upset against LSU. You can go back and check the videos. I got receipts, ladies and gentlemen. Cock Nation, I'm with you. Now I feel a lot more confident that this is a game where you're going to watch Shane Beamer dish out something that he has not shown before. And also, major testament, 3-0. Throw on those sunglasses, Beamer. You've earned the right to be an asshole.
And to your point, Cole, you actually had South Carolina beating LSU after a loss to Kentucky, which
I did.
You know, that was a – there were people, certainly you saw the conversation, that felt like maybe this game was even more winnable than the game in Lexington. Well, now you're 2-0. Now you've won that game, and you've done so in convincing fashion. So, and here comes the LSU Tigers. Again, guys, this is a noon kickoff Eastern time on Saturday. College Gameday has officially announced they will be there. Cole, College Gameday is going to be there. We're going to be there. Josh Pate's going to be there. I think there's some other SEC folks. Seems like everyone's sort of convening in Columbia, South Carolina for this matchup. Being televised on ABC, guys, of course, like I mentioned, Williams-Brice Stadium. The line in this one, Cole, LSU, as recently as a Monday morning when we're chatting about this, LSU is a 7-point favorite in this game. The over-under set at 52.5. That is significant because LSU open is, I believe, an 8.5-point favorite. So the money is pouring in on the home underdog. LSU leads the series all time 19-2-1. And the last meeting between these two squads, 2020, when LSU got the better of South Carolina in Death Valley there in Baton Rouge. So like I mentioned, Cole, as we dive in this matchup, I want to get your thoughts. College Gameday back in Columbia for the first time since 2014. Wouldn't you know it, Cole? The last time College Gameday was in Columbia, yours truly was there. I was actually at that College Gameday. It was South Carolina, Missouri. Unfortunately, it was one of those games where you kind of knew Steve Spurrier maybe had lost the fastball at South Carolina. They lost that one in heartbreaking fashion. But either way, I want to start there, Cole, because I don't think we can – I don't think it can be understated or overstated, how big of a win and victory this is for Shane Beamer, his South Carolina program. The fact that you're getting all eyes on you. I know some will say, well, the schedule is weak, this, that, whatever. All that matters is this. All of the college football world is looking at you. You get to give, positive exposure to your program, and what a great opportunity it is for them.
It's not just that. It's also a moment for you to make a statement. It's a moment for you to be able to kind of stand tall and say, we are different. We are not the version that you saw last year. We had the problems. We went out. We corrected the mistakes. And did we have some sluggish times during the game in Lexington? Absolutely. But it's a young season. People want to go ahead and immediately form a full-fledged opinion with 2 weeks of information. Good, bad, and different. That's the bottom line. You hear Kentucky fans waving the white flag. Our year is over. This is the absolute joke. We got to fire Mark Stoops. Okay, let's pump the brakes. We got people saying down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, hey, Brian Kelly, you're a joke. You're embarrassing us. It's year 3. We're playing close against Nicholls State. Okay, well, Brian Kelly has gotten you to 10 back-to-back win seasons. Let's kind of pump the brakes. And then there's South Carolina, a team that once again is just finding ways to not buy into the narrative that was created by everyone outside of the culture, outside of the nation, outside of the Palmetto State, outside of what you see at Willie B on Saturdays. And I thought that Shane Beamer put it best last week in a dominant 31-6 win over Kentucky. We hear the outside narratives. Those are narratives that we don't buy into. They buy into a culture. And the other part that's really important about this is that now with you on primetime stage, recruits are paying attention. You're going to have people on campus that are going to see a new version of Gamecock football. And you also kind of feel like that every few years, South Carolina gets a win that they probably shouldn't, or gets a win that nobody's expecting. And it's not at the level of Kentucky. Kentucky and you're at the same talking point. You're hitting up against the competition. I love Shane Beamer. I've made it abundantly clear I would run through a wall for Shane Beamer. I will protect Shane Beamer with my own life if it means that he gets to stay at Willie B and coach for another year while I'm looking down from heaven. College football heaven has just embraced me because I saved Shane Beamer. You win this game, you don't even have to wonder if there is hot seat conversations or what's going wrong. No, instead you're saying to yourself, what type of contract do we have to keep? Because there's going to be other SEC jobs open. There's going to be other primetime jobs that become available that might be able to go ahead and offer him something that we can't. So we got to make sure that he's sticking around for the long term. People buy into people buy into culture. You have both right now going into year 4 underneath the Beamer era.
Cole, to your point, all you can ask for in life is the opportunity. And I think for the program, obviously, again, getting College Gameday, getting this primetime slot. I know it's a noon game. You'd prefer it be at night. But still, either way, it's going to be a raucous environment. And to your point, it's one thing to start 2-0, beat Kentucky the way you did. I think people were – now they're paying attention. Or maybe now they're curious. It's like the Django Unchained line. You had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. And if you go out there and you pull off what Vegas calls it would be the upset because you're a 7-point underdog, but you go out there and win this game straight up. These are the types of wins in year 4 that can really, it changes the trajectory. We were wondering coming into year 4, what's the trajectory of the program? I would still say right now it's probably positive. You beat LSU and there will be no doubt there. As we look, Cole, at the matchup on the field, we got to start with this South kind of defense, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I one admittedly, Cole, I was one that was a bit skeptical. I was surprised at the decision to keep Clayton White, the defensive coordinator from last year. And I was skeptical because we had seen before, defenses with talent that it felt like sort of underachieved, especially last year. They've been incredible. I mean, that front 7, I felt confidently in saying they upgraded in different areas there in the front 7. They upgraded their athleticism. And I mean, you look at what they've got. I mean, they sent the house. They sent the pressure on Kentucky. They forced the issue, and I think that's the best way for them to operate because I think, you feel like you trust your guys in the back end with guys like Nicky Manwari, who had the big pick 6 late in that game, DQ Smith, who was a freshman All-American at one point, Jelon Kilgore in the back end as well at safety. Like, you feel like you've got a really competent group of guys in the secondary, so maybe put them on an island every now and then and send the pressure. And, I mean, it has paid off such major dividends. Now, I will say this, Cole. This is going to be their stiffest test yet, right? This is going to be the best offense they've played. We're taking nothing away from the Kentucky game, but I think Kentucky's got their own issues offensively. But if you can go out there again and do it against Garrett Nussmeier, who is a guy that I think you've seen, if you get pressure on him, he will put the football in some tight windows. He's going to give you some opportunity to take the football away. And Cole, LSU has struggled mightily to run the ball. So all of a sudden, you look at this, it might be an advantageous matchup for South Carolina. And I think even it's really curious and interesting, Cole, on the LSU side is you thought the offensive line was something you were going to be able to lean on. You haven't been able to do so. You couldn't even run the football against Nicholls State. You struggled in week 1 against Southern Cal. Really curious to see who comes out on top in this matchup because I think it could be one of the biggest difference makers in this game.
The one thing that you mentioned, Chris, was that these two haven't played against each other since 2020. But for the first time since 2020, we're talking about South Carolina with the best performer of the week, and that's Dylan Stewart, 5-star freshman phenom that is just a man amongst boys. We look at the skill position players primarily at wide receiver. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Ryan Wingo, Ryan Williams. They're all great. They're all fixtures of the SEC that are going to become household names by the season's end. Dylan Stewart belongs in that category. The performance that you saw on Saturday, according to Pro Football Focus, was the best performance by a defensive end since 2020. Since 2020, he made mincemeat out of that big blue ball. He absolutely was terrorizing. He is a game wrecker from the second that he touches on the field. It is like there is a switch that turns on that is Venom 2.0. And it's like the Eddie Brock gets taken over by the symbiote. And it's like, nope, we're just going to kill. We have one goal, kill. And he does it. And he's a game changer. The fact that you have him coming out early against Old Dominion and binding pressure, and then late in the game, he still is out on the field, gets a forced fumble, puts you inside the red zone. You capitalize, you score, you walk away with the dub. That's a freshman making veteran plays. And the beauty about this game is that you get to truly see what type of special talent you have in Columbia, because you're going up against one of the best left tackles in college football with Will Campbell. The matchup of the day for me is going to be watching Will Campbell, for my money, the best player in the SEC when he has all the bells and whistles clicking, against what could be the future best defensive player by 2025 and beyond. It's the present versus the future. And the bottom line is that when we look at LSU, their pass protection has been great. When you get pressure, you're watching as a guy in Garrett Nussmeier sit for 2 years, learn the ins and outs, the inconsistencies of the offense, making highlight play after highlight play, deliver. But also, you are watching as this offensive line looks great in pass pro and struggles against the run. Your run defense of your South Carolina has been a blessing in disguise for you. Taka Hemingway, superstar. You look at the back end, Jaylon Kilgore, Nicky Emanwari. These are two guys that are playing blanketed coverage. Cornerback playing overall has been very impressive. And I actually think that when you look at Kentucky's wide receiver group, it's one of the most underappreciated and underrated in the SEC. So who am I to say that you can't do that against Kyron Lacey, against CJ Daniels, against maybe you get back a fully healthy Xavier Thomas. Maybe there's more weapons. Mason Taylor at tight end. You can blanket those players to now force one-on-one opportunities for Garrett Nussmeier. And all you got to do is see one underthrown ball, and that's a pick to the house. Nicky Emanwari made sure of that. The thing that you love about the South Carolina defense, and I brought this up in the offseason when we were talking going into X Factor series, I said the defense has to play ahead of the curve. And I didn't want to put that much pressure on them because, it's still some young players. You go out in the transfer portal, you're adding in different names, but you got an all SEC linebacker in Debo Williams. You got a great defensive line with significant depth. And your offense doesn't have that right now. It can easily get there. That's the beauty of South Carolina when you look at this team moving forward. They can get there on offense, but they're not there yet. If your defense buys them time to make this an even keel matchup where Lenore Sellers is allowed to have one bad drive, but okay, we're going to get a 3 and out. Garrett Nussmeier is going to have to throw on third down. We're going to make this offense very predictable. We'll be in great hands. We'll be All-State. We'll be right there. Everything's going to be good. We'll be right there in good hands. That's what you want if you're looking at the future of South Carolina, especially for this season. It's what's going to keep you interesting. They feel like a team that, again, has the pieces defensively. Dylan Stewart looks awesome. Taka Hemingway looks awesome. Debo Williams looks awesome. The secondary is playing up to par. This is going to be a major test. I said last week, this is a fork in the road game for two programs in Kentucky and South Carolina. This is the elevation game if you are South Carolina. Sitting at 3-0, knowing that you have the confidence to kind of pick up the pace, go play Akron, and then start playing against quality college football SEC contenders, teams that we're talking about going to the college football playoff, that's where you get a little bit more of the build your britches type moment. This is the game. This is the game where you want to be able to separate yourself from that contention conversation to actual we mean business conversation.
Cole, just to echo the point of South Carolina defensively and the pressure they brought against Kentucky and forcing the issue, our good friend sent us this stat actually this morning. Kentucky had 22 dropbacks against South Carolina. South Carolina had some form of pressure on every dropback, but 2 of them. So 20 of the 22 dropbacks, they were bringing pressure, only brought more than 4 guys on less than 20% of the dropbacks. I'm curious to see if that's the defensive approach in this game. Are they kind of forcing the issue yet again? And I think kind of forcing the issue when it comes to Garrett Nussmeier, and again, seeing if they can force some turnovers and get the football off of him. From the LSU perspective, Cole, this one feels really important. I mean, when you're talking a 12-team college football playoff, you have some wiggle room, but you already lost your season opener to Southern Cal. We're not talking about Brian Kelly on the hot seat or anything. Like when you look at the buyout and stuff, and I just think the optics, that would be kind of a foolish conversation. But there's a lot of pressure, Cole, for LSU to go out there and play well in this game, right? To get the running game going, for Garrett Nussmeier to play his very best. The defense under Blake Baker, what does that look like? You also, by the way, Cole, we should mention Jacoby and Guillory. We now know he's out for the season, tore his ACL. That's another knock on your defensive front. I think it could lead to maybe a breakout game for a Rocket Sanders or an Oscar Attaway or maybe Lenoris Sellers in South Carolina to get the running game going. There's so many questions in my mind when it comes to LSU, and just kind of we're still trying to figure out kind of who they are, because that Southern Cal loss, I mean, give credit to the Trojans, but it's one that, you know, I think most of us expecting them to win, and now you don't. And you look at the rest of the schedule. Okay, you got to play Ole Miss. Okay, you got to play Bama. You don't have a lot of wiggle room, Cole. This is one you have to have. So I still feel like I have so many questions, maybe more questions than answers when it comes to LSU. And I think we're going to get some answers on Saturday.
The thing about LSU is that we know that their peak is pretty damn good, and it's pretty damn hard to stop. That's what it is. Garrett Nussmeier is a kid that has a coaching background legacy because his dad has been in college and the NFL for years. So he understands what type of pressure it is to play not only in the SEC, but play the most influential position on the field. And you've watched as this passing attack has kind of just said, okay, Brian Thomas is gone. Malik Neighbors is gone. We're LSU. We're wide receiver U. Next man up. Xavier Thomas has looked good in a limited role. Kyron Lacey, the fact that he wasn't utilized in that USC game in the second half at all kind of showed you what he was all about back in Baton Rouge, 3 tutties on the day. CJ Daniels, that's a kid that regardless of what level of talent you played at last year, G5, Conference USA, FBS, Group of 5 national championship mentality, that's a dude that was a difference maker, and difference makers show up. 4 catches, 71 yards. Mason Taylor, people love him at the tight end position. You look at Jujuwan Johnson, people love him. They love Javian Nichols. They love Trey Green. They love Aaron Anderson. They got weapons, and they have an offensive line that, again, for my money, is the best in pass pro in college football. It's one of the best. But then we also see the lulls. Then we also see the gripes. Then we also see the limitations of this team. Run blocking, it has not been good. Let's call a spade a spade. For as good as the pass blocking has been, the run blocking has been nearly unwatchable. You look at the run game. You don't have John Emery anymore. Tears his ACL last week, out for the season. You're not seeing that clear separation in a number 2 back and a number 1 back. You're still watching as Nicholls State can bully you. Josh Williams with a game high 19 yards against Nicholls State in Tiger Stadium in Death Valley at night. There's questions. Defensively, you allowed this Nicholls State team to stay involved a little bit too close for comfort. Yes, did you pull away? Did you get a 44-21 victory? You did. Did Brian Kelly give credit to a team that probably did not belong there even in the first place? He did. But also, this is South Carolina. The way that we talk about with South Carolina having to go face off against like an Ole Miss or an Alabama, and we're going to hear someone in the national media, because we know it's going to happen. Gamecock Nation, you know it's going to happen. You're giving people crap this morning. You're giving us crap. You're giving multiple people crap. They're going to say, but this is not the team that we said. This is Alabama. That's what I got to say this week about South Carolina. It's an upgrade over Nicholls State. Their defense is the reason and the backbone and the baseline for a foundation of chaos in 2024. Their offense is going to get better. You mentioned it. There is still that game where Rocket Sanders is going to blast off. I don't know when it happens. It could be this weekend. It could come against Ole Miss. It could come against Bama. But I already have it locked down. Oh, he's going to get a blast-off game. Game where he just rushes for 175 yards and 2 tutties. Lenoris Sellers going to look better in this game. It's another piece to the 19-step puzzle that is turning Lenoris Sellers into Rec Specs icon, actually college football legend. Like, that's where we're at this point. So for LSU, you have to play at your peak for, I would say, 3.5 quarters. And it's because of, that for 3.5 quarters at Willie B, and for my money, the most underrated college football campus, stadium, and atmosphere in the history of the sport, they're going to play 3.5 quarters. So you have to play the peak 3.5 quarters, because you allow them to hang around a little bit too close for comfort. It's not going to be Nicholls State. They will pull away, and they will make you be the one that's calling on goal.
Cole, I'm interested to see in this game, too, the curious case of South Carolina's offense against LSU's defense. I think one of these two units is going to use this game as sort of a springboard, right? I mean, I think that you look at the Gamecocks offensively, you get a big win last weekend, but you struggled a little bit. I mean, it hasn't been beautiful, right? There's some loose ends to fix, some things to work on, which you would expect with a young quarterback and questions at receiver and what have you. But it was good enough, obviously, in Lexington. I think one of these two sides is probably going to have a big game and really use it to spark their season, right? LSU defensively, we saw them week 1 against Southern Cal. There was some griping last week, obviously, with Nichols. I think Nichols had, what did they have, 200 yards rushing? Or like
I believe it was like
almost 200.
150.
Okay, 150. Okay.
But they did have 2 touchdowns.
They did have 2 touchdowns, but they were able to run the ball pretty effectively. I saw actually some griping on social media from LSU folks about Harold Perkins Jr., maybe the way they're still utilizing him. So, it's I don't know if fork in the road is necessarily the right word, but I think it's an opportunity to build momentum for both these sides. South Carolina's offense, LSU's defense, I think both the question marks of their respective teams, who's able to put together that performance that I think, again, Cole, kind of sparks them and springboards them into a really, really big 2024.
I think the other part is that it both could be a springboard game, but the thing that you're looking for is the little things. So when you look back at that South Carolina game against Kentucky, Lenore Sellers did the one thing that Brock Vinegar couldn't: make the explosive plays happen. He had 3 passes downfield for 20-plus yards. He found Joshua Simon in the end zone for a 16-yard score. He was able to maneuver outside the pocket, feel the pressure, not feel the pressure to deliver a big strike, but feel the pressure that was coming in a pass rush, and still deliver to Mazo Bennett 32 yards downfield. You see the explosiveness. You see the upside. But now it's about the little things. The game within the game for this matchup is who can do the little things best. That way they don't become a problem and you're just worrying about one explosive play. Can you connect on a 3rd and short? Can you find a way to get a 6-yard swing pass out in the flats? Can you find a way to take a 12-yard post pattern and just connect with your receiver and not overshoot him, where there's going to be a cornerback or there's going to be a defensive back sitting in the wings waiting to pull off that pick, like we saw by Nico Iamaleava with NC State? Will you have that backing? Can you have accurate passes? Can you run? Can you pull, if you're a guard, to open up a crease for Rocket Sanders or Oscar Attaway in the backfield? Can you, as an offensive line, win your one-on-one battles to where there is consistent moving of the sticks? And then if you're in LSU's defense, can you take advantage of an offensive line that still is trying to put together itself? Can you take advantage of a quarterback that still is going into his 3rd full-time start and really kind of learning the kinks and working things out and proving that he can be a difference maker? Can you take advantage of this anemic run games at times? Can you take advantage of these one-on-one matchups on the outside where there hasn't been an established number 1 receiver? It's all about the little things in this game, especially for these two sides, because you're going to watch, I think, a completely different game when South Carolina's defense and LSU's offense is on the field. Mm-hmm. It's going to be one that we actually talk about in not a prominent light, but one that we talk about in such a positive light. You have the progression of these two squads. You know what the backing is. You know what the potential is. Everyone has seen South Carolina's defense. Everyone has seen LSU's offense. What do these other sides look like? Because you don't want to be these teams that feel like we have all the pieces together to go on this epic run, to be better than advertised, be right in the middle of the conversation for Atlanta, be right in the middle of the conversation for a college football playoff, and then one side of the football lets you down. When you look at South Carolina and LSU, they actually are very close in common for one aspect. They have one side of the football that has to carry a little bit more weight while the other one is picking up steam. This is the game where you kind of have to lay down the line. If you're South Carolina's offense, you have to put it together. If you're LSU's defense, you have to put it together.
I'll be curious to see on the offensive side what Dowell Loggins is going to dial up for the Gamecocks. And offensively, too, for LSU, man, do we see a more aggressive attack from the Tigers? I mean, again, we saw in week 1 a lot of gripes in that second half. We certainly had gripes about the play calling and where did Kyron Lacey go? And so that matchup on the outside, I think if South Carolina is going to bring the heat and bring the pressure, I think you trust your wide receivers to go up and make big plays and you force the issue down the field. I think you're going to have to do that. I don't think you can be conservative in this game for LSU. You got to be willing to dial it up and, ask your quarterback to deliver some throws down the field and accuracy, and ask your receivers to go out and make some plays. And you've got the receivers to do that, right? You feel like right now that's the strength of your football team. You're not able to run the football consistently. You're going to have to push that football downfield and try to hit some explosive plays, at least loosen that defense up a little bit. So, Cole, as we look at this one, let's lock in some predictions. South Carolina with the opportunity to, dare I say, shock the college football world a little bit. I mean, starting 3-0 with a win over the LSU Tigers, which, of course, would be the signature win at this point. LSU obviously looking for a road victory. I think a win that would be sort of a feather in the cap. And obviously, I think keep their college football playoff hopes alive because, Cole, I don't want to over-exaggerate what this one means, but, Cole, you drop your second game and go to 1-2. You can virtually kiss making a 12-team college football playoff goodbye. So when you look at this game, Cole, College Gameday's in town. This is the SEC Unfiltered game of the week. Will be in town. It seems like everyone has got their sights set on this one. South Carolina, LSU at Williams-Brice Stadium. Who you picking?
You mentioned it. Everyone's going to be there. Everyone is going to be on campus. Everyone is going to watch this game. It is the fixture of the Saturday morning slate. Everyone is paying attention. Everyone also knows what is on the line. For South Carolina, it's finally time to be that team. You're no longer the bridesmaid. You are actually the bride. You get to be the one that's walking down the aisle and see everyone smile at you and go, oh, don't they look fantastic? Yeah, they do. They look great. They look physical. They look ready. The narratives in this game are going to be on both sides. What is stopping this team from getting to that next level? What is stopping this team from getting to that next gear? And the thing about Brian Kelly is I'm seeing a lot of overrated comments. Tell you what, you don't have a solidified coach. You would gladly take Brian Kelly as your next signal caller tomorrow. So go ahead and be the Twitter warrior, be the keyboard king, and say everything you want behind closed doors. But you know if Brian Kelly became available, you would love to have him. You also would love to have Shane Beamer be your hype man. The way that these kids play for him, the way that this locker room gravitates to him, they will do whatever it takes because of he will do whatever it takes. When you look at people, you can tell immediately if it is a charade, if they're a snake oil salesman, or if they're actually authentic. And Shane Beamer is authentic. And South Carolina is authentic. And South Carolina is a dangerous place to go when it feels like you can send the dogs loose and go ahead and deliver the crushing blow. And I love Garrett Nussmeier, and I love Kyron Lacey, and I think LSU is a damn good team that found a way to mess it up for themselves. They did that out in Las Vegas. You're not seeing that happen again. You're not seeing a team that believes in itself to do it. You're not seeing a team that has the best atmosphere on game days that isn't talked about at the highlight level. Go ahead and let someone else walk into their backyard and deliver the blow. Oscar Attaway, Rocket Sanders, 200 combined rushing yards. Lenore Sellers, give me a 3-touchdown day. Defensively, 2 late turnovers. And a final score from Mr. Shane Beamer himself as he walks off sitting 3-0. Give me the Gamecocks pulling off the upset, 28-20.
Cole, this is one of the reasons we love college football. The opportunity to pull off an upset to, in front of your home crowd. Again, like you mentioned, I agree with you. It's one of the best atmospheres in all of college football, truly. It's an atmosphere I've experienced many times firsthand, whether it be a noon kick, 3:30, or night game. It doesn't get much better than what Williams-Brice Stadium presents on Saturdays. I'm fascinated by this matchup. This is one I've honestly wrestled with, Cole. I've gone back and forth on this one. LSU desperately needs to have it. South Carolina desperately wants it to kind of springboard the program and put all the offseason narrative and all the talking to rest, right? Because to your point, you mentioned this earlier in the convo, people I think had some fun with the hot seat chatter or the seat warming up chatter. And I even mentioned it. And the best way to get rid of that combo is to win games. And that's exactly what they have done, right? Sitting at 2-0 and thrashing the Kentucky Wildcats. I'm really curious to see what LSU offensively, how they're going to attack or how they're going to deal with the South Carolina defense. I'm curious to see is South Carolina going to continue to stay as aggressive as they were last week. And I think it'd be a mistake not to be. I think if you're South Carolina, you look at this game, we have nothing to lose. We're already ahead of schedule. We're 2-0. Again, you want to go out there and win, but you have nothing to lose, right? Like, play with aggression, play loose. South Carolina football has always played their best, I feel, when they play like they have nothing to lose. So from the South Carolina perspective, you want to continue to see the pressure. You want to continue to see Dylan Stewart, Kyle Kennard, and these guys in the backfield. You want to continue to see them send the house, if you will, and I think force the issue, and you give your secondary an opportunity at least early in the game until you see that it's not a good plan. You give them an opportunity early in the game to be on an island and make big plays. Offensively is where I obviously have the questions. That's the questions with South Carolina. Do they have enough bullets in the gun to keep up, right? Do they have enough punches to keep up with an LSU offense that, again, is the most potent South Carolina will have faced this year? Is LSU going to be able to get a running game going? If they have no balance, will they be able to move the football? That is the big question for me. For them, I think they have to open up the playbook, take shots downfield, stretch the field vertically. You're not going to be able to do what you did against Southern Cal and win many football games this year. I think this one is included. The atmosphere will be raucous, Cole. College game day will be electric. I can't wait to be out there, and I can't wait to be back in Williams-Brice Stadium for the first time since 2022 and experience it firsthand. That being said, I am going LSU in this game. I think that – I know, I'm going LSU. I will say I think there's a lot of people that are watching this. They'd probably be more upset, Cole, if I was picking South Carolina.
I was just saying, maybe this is like the good curse.
They'd probably be more upset if I was picking South Carolina to win. My big question again, though, this is the best offense you faced. I don't think they're going to run wild or anything. I think South Carolina's defense is truly legit. But if the Gamecocks have to go down the field and score, and they're going to have to, is this that breakout game for Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway, the rushing attack, the offensive line? Is it the breakout game for Lenoris Sellers? You know, LSU defensively has their own questions, but they got some hell of a football players. Harold Perkins Jr., just to name one of them, who I expect to be very active in this game. So I've got the LSU Tigers. One late blow, I think, is all it takes. I think Vegas hit the nail on the head with the number right at a touchdown. Give me LSU 27, South Carolina 20. So really, Cole, your score, but just flipped. And again, I really think this is so much more of a coin flip game than I once thought it was. But I do have LSU pointed out late. If this game were at night too, Cole, I'll be honest with you, it might be enough for me to take South Carolina. The noon atmosphere will still be great, but you know as well as I do, it's not quite what it is at night. I think LSU is able to weather that storm. They have to have this game, and I think they'll get it.
It's not the same at night, but we also know, Chris, once in a while, South Carolina is going to get the dub that they don't deserve, and lo and behold, this is the one where I think that they do deserve it, which is why they get not only do they win, but they set a new standard out at Willie B, the new era of Beamer Ball, and the Beamer Ball that we have been bracing ourselves for. We're back. South Carolina football is back. Gamecock Nation, you love Cole Thompson. You love the Thompson energy. You love you get me out to Willie B. I'll show you a good time. That I'm wearing the garnet for you because that's how much I believe. I this is the year. This is it. Beamer Ball is back.
Would be a massive dub indeed. Again, cannot wait to experience the environment firsthand. Excuse me, the SEC Unfiltered game of the week in College Game Day on hand. So guys, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Cole? Do you disagree with both of us? What are your thoughts and what are your predictions when South Carolina and LSU do battle? Guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Cole Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.